Okay, so this particular protocol is provided at the data link layer. What is its main important work or the task? Like transmission of the data, okay, between network nodes or points. So all of we know that data link layer deals with node to node delivery. Okay. So from one node of the network to next node in the network. So router 1 to router 2, router 2 to router 3, router 3 to router 4. That's way frames are actually transmitted. Always data link layer deals with the data in the form of frames. If we see network layer, always network layer handles data in the form of packets. So whatever data is coming from the higher layer, that is in the form of packets, okay, this particular data will be taken up by the data link layer, and it will be added to the that particular frames. Okay, so basically HDLC, if we see, it is a bit oriented protocol. Okay, using this we can transmit frames from one network node to another network node. That's way finally it will arrive at the destination. Okay, that is called as high level data link control protocol, HDLC. So this particular protocol is basically a bit oriented protocol. Okay, and this particular protocol can be used for both point to point communication or multi point communications also. Okay, so in this particular HDLC we can have three types of entities: primary stations, okay, three types of stations: primary stations which are going to send the data, okay, and they can control the link with the commands. Link means the connection in between the node to another node. Node A to node B, node B to node C, node C to node D. There will be connections that are called as links. Okay. So primary stations are responsible for sending data as well as controlling the link with the help of commands. Second type of stations we can have in the HDLC that are called as secondary stations. Secondary stations are the stations that can receive the data mainly, and they can respond to the messages from the primary stations. Okay. So primary stations are mainly responsible for giving the commands or sending the data, while secondary stations can respond to the primary stations. They can receive the data from the primary stations. And then we can have third type of stations called as combined stations, which can send commands as well as they can respond also. So the combined type of stations are the stations which have the feature that they can issue or send commands as well as they can respond. If we see primary station, if we call them, they can send the commands, okay, but secondary stations, they can't send the command. They are not allowed to send the commands. That is the major problem over here. So as per the operational mode or transfer mode of HDLC protocol, primary stations can send commands and data, while secondary stations can receive that commands and can receive the data. If there are combined type of stations, means that they can send commands to other stations as well as they can receive commands from the other stations or receive data from the other station. So that's way the role of stations has been defined in this particular HDLC protocol. So basically it is a bit oriented protocol. So bit by bit data is transmitted from the formats of frame. So actually HDLC protocol deals with the frames, where the frame is packaging the data coming from the packets. So we are getting data from the network layer, that is in the form of packets. These packets are encapsulated inside the frames over here. Okay, so if we see now, there are two transfer modes of HDLC basically: normal response mode, NRM. Okay, so if you see, there are two types of stations over here. One is primary, I have just told you, and second one is secondary. So if I say this normal response mode NRM, in this particular mode of operation, two types of stations, primary station and secondary stations, they are there. Primary station can send commands to the secondary station, and then secondary station can respond to the received commands. Okay. So in the case of normal response mode, we can have two types of communication, point to point communication and multi-point communication. So when HDLC is using or working in normal response mode of operation, then primary station and secondary station can have point to point communication. Okay. And then if they are working in multi-point communication, then primary station can send the commands to the multiple secondary stations, and then these secondary stations will give response to the primary station. This is called as multi-point communication. Okay. So what it is called as multi-point communication. Is it clear what I said? What is HDLC?